welcome to the Read Aloud Revival. I'm your host, Sarah Mackenzie, and this is the show that helps you make meaningful and lasting connections with your kids through books. Today, I have an absolute treat for you because one of my very favorite picture book authors and illustrators is here to chat with us. I'm talking about none other than Astrid Sheckels. You may know her as the author and illustrator of the Hector Fox and Friends series, or maybe Sea Dog or Sea Dog Rescue. She's also the illustrator of the cover and the interior illustrations of Beyond Mulberry Glen by Millie Florence. And she has a new book coming. It hits shelves next week, October 7th, 2025. It is called Flora and the Jazzers, and it is a stunner. I cannot wait for you to get your hands on this book. Astrid lives in New England and loves painting animals in clothing. So you know she is my kind of girl. We have loved working with her at Waxwing Books, which is, of course, the sister publishing company to Read Aloud Revival, where we are making the best read alouds we can for your family. And Flora and the Jazzers is just going to blow you away. Just got a Kirkus starred review where they called it sumptuously illustrated, which is truly a perfect description of these illustrations. It's a Cinderella story set in 1920s New York, and our Cinderella character is Flora, who is a ferret working at a very fancy hotel. I won't keep going, though. I want you to hear it from Astrid herself. So enjoy this conversation between me and Astrid Sheckels. Astrid, it is such a delight to have you at the Read Aloud Revival. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I've been looking forward to it.
Your books have been favorites around here for such a long time. You've made so many gorgeous books for kids. I think most of our viewers and listeners are going to recognize the Hector Fox series. I feel like that series in particular is what I see so often, especially like in little gift shops. It's like it's such a beautiful book that gift store shop owners know this is not just like a normal book. This is something special. So I've noticed it like in this gift shop in Coeur d'Alene and here in Spokane. And then I was in the Northeast. And of course, everybody in the Northeast loves your books. So it's just so fun to see your books all over in these like out of the ordinary little boutique-y type stores. I love it. And then the Sea Dog and Sea Dog Rescue. And of course, you did the cover for Beyond Mulberry Glen by Millie Florence. Just absolutely stunning. Tell me a little bit about you and your start into illustrating. Like, were you always drawing as a child? What did that look like?
Yes, I was always drawing as a child. And I was always, I always had stories to tell. And I would tell them by drawing a picture, and then I would corner somebody and hold them and I could draw a story. I mean, I could make a story kind of long-winded. Like, oh, but there's this. So I remember one time, sort of like crawling to my mom's bed, and I had a drawing, and it was a two-sided drawing. So there was a lot to tell. It was about a bunny crawling out of a window, and I don't know. I think it was also skiing downhill or something. So yeah, I was always telling stories, and I loved to draw since I was little. Oh, I also came from a family that read a lot. My dad would read to my sister and me every evening. We got through so many classics. He read Treasure Island and Robinson Crusoe and Secret Garden and The Little Princess. And probably if it's sort of a classic, he read it to us, even Tom Sawyer. The Narnia books, I think he read those to us. He finished them up maybe when I was 5. And I have a clear recollection of crying because the stories were over.
Oh.
Also, another part of my background is my mom's from Denmark. So I have that whole side of my family lives there. My mom moved to the US when she married my dad. Okay. And so when my grandparents would come from Denmark to visit us, my grandfather would read books to us. So he read Heidi to us and Pollyanna. He read them to us in Danish.
Oh, wow. Yes. I know a few times as we've been working together, you'll be like, I'll be out of the office next week. I'm going to Denmark. That's a thing that's happened a couple of times.
It has happened, which has been lovely. So I have lots of family there. And when I go there, I just like jump right into the culture. So you will see in my illustrations, there is a very strong, probably European feel. Be it British or Scandinavian, you do definitely, that kind of feeling comes in there.
Yes.
Can't help it.
It's just part of it.
but I live here in New England. That's where I grew up. And so that really comes through strong in my illustrations and storytelling as well. So like the Hector Fox books are very strongly situated in sort of a New Englandy forest
Yeah, they have
feel.
seems like they have a strong sense of place. Actually, I think
Yeah.
most of your illustrations have a
Yep.
strong sense of place, like, that you never get the feeling that these are characters that could be in different like, picked up and moved to a different setting. Like, they need to be they're a part of where they are, the setting that you've created for them.
Yes. And because a lot of the stories are animals, it makes sense for them to like really be attached to their habitat.
That was my very next question for you, actually,
Yeah,
which is because I think animals are your sweet spot. I
it
mean, they
is.
are just oh my gosh. Has that always been the case?
All since I yes, I love animals.
Okay, yes.
So if left to myself, I would be drawing animals all the time. And we didn't have quite as many pets in my home growing up as I would have loved, but um, kittens and birds and fish. And
Okay.
then when I was a little older, we got a dog, and that was just wonderful. Actually, my first book that I both wrote and illustrated is Nick and Nellie, and that
Yeah.
dog Nellie was my dog.
What is your dog? Oh, I can picture the cover right now as you're talking about it.
Yes.
Well, you have your animal friends that you paint and put in the most adorable clothing.
Yes.
That always fits very specific to where they should be. We're gonna talk about that, especially with your
Yes.
newest book, which I'm so excited to chat about. Your newest book is Flora and the Jazzers, set
It is.
in 1920s New York, yes,
Yes.
and published, of course, by Waxwing Books.
Yep.
We were just absolutely over the moon when we saw this beautiful starred review come in from Kirkus saying the book was sumptuously illustrated. That is the perfect description of your illustrations. They're just lush and gorgeous. Tell us a little bit about Flora and the Jazzers, and then we'll dive into making the book.
So, Flora and the Jazzers. So, it is a story about a little scullery maid who works at a very fancy hotel. And she scrubs all day. And while she's scrubbing, she's singing and humming to herself because she loves music and her heart is full of music. And even though she has a very lowly job, that does not dampen her spirit. And she loves jazz music, which since it is 1920s, there's a lot of jazz around, and her favorite band is the Jazzers. And then lo and behold, they come to her hotel where she's working and are going to have a performance. So it's sort of a dream come true. And she has been hoping and saving her pennies so that one day she would be able to attend an actual concert herself. So favorite band comes to the hotel. It's like perfect. And she goes and asks her hotel manager if she can go to hear them. She can just sneak in, nobody will see her. And the hotel manager says, no, music's not for someone like you. And that's absolutely devastating and shattering for Flora, understandably so. And then we switch gears and we meet up with the Jazzers, who are a nice, jovial bunch of musicians. And they are geared up to have their performance, and they discover that they are having a major problem and they need some sort of a solution. And Flora might be who they are in need of, her voice and her
Exactly.
person.
Let's put the book trailer up here so
Sure.
everybody can watch it, and we'll be right back. I mean, seriously, the illustrations, the storyline, it's like a Cinderella story, but the Cinderella's Flora the ferret. It's put set in 1920s New York. The setting, the ambience in these illustrations is completely immersive. It is, and there, I have my own favorite illustration that we're going to talk about. I'm wondering if you have one. Do you have an illustration that was like, this was so much fun to make?
Yes, I have two. There's one where, and it was actually a scene I had right from sort of the beginning of my first inkling of the book. And that is a scene where Flora is walking into the ballroom with all the guests, and they all turn and look at her and are like, "Oh, who is that?" And it's a total Cinderella moment.
Yes.
And they're like, "Who is that beautiful lady?" Yes. And no one recognizes her at all.
Yes.
And she's still Flora. And that's what I love about her. She's still Flora, even though she goes through
Mhm.
this transformation. She's going to be on stage, and she's, has the new clothing, but she's still the sweet little ferret that we met right from the beginning. So
Yeah.
that one was really fun to do. The one that kind of surprised me that I am really excited about is actually here behind me, and it's the cutaway of the hotel.
This is my favorite.
And that one was it was a surprise because, okay, confession time, illustrators, authors make mistakes.
What?
Yes, I had laid this book out and I realized I was sort of like a whole spread short, like the story was a little too short.
So let's back up for just a quick second so I can explain to our listeners and viewers. Books are assembled in signatures, which are basically signatures of 8. And those pages are, if you were to pick up a book off of your shelf, like a novel or something, those might be in signatures of 16. But you pull the book off your shelf and you can see little collections. It's almost like a bunch of tiny books that have been combined together into a single book. And the reason they do that is for printing purposes, so that when they're running these big sheets through the printer, they have multiple pages on a sheet and they get folded into a signature, and that signature goes into a book. So because of that, picture books are always done in signatures of 8. So your book is usually either 32 or 40 or 48, but you can't make a picture book that's, say, 30 pages or 35 pages. That doesn't work because then you're going to have a bunch of blank pages in your signature, which is what you were up against, right?
I was ending up with a 30-page book.
Okay.
So, yeah. So I quickly scrambled and I thought, okay, where do I need something extra? I did want it to be sumptuous. I wanted it to have like a lot there. And I thought, wow, what would happen? I kind of wanted to open up her world so that we could see more of where she lives and where she works. Then there's a little bit of a break in the story right here because it's all from Flora's perspective. And then at this point, there is sort of a shift and we start seeing things a little bit from the Jazzer's point of view. So that, well, what if we had actually a scene that created that break? So it makes sense that we travel from where Flora is now scrubbing away in the hotel to where the Jazzers are just coming into their sort of dilemma moment and we see them. So there is this scene where you see a cutaway of the hotel where you're seeing the different levels and sort of the different areas where the guests are. That's very fancy and opulent and chandeliers and very glitzy. And then you have the, up above, you have the different hotel rooms, a lot of doors and a nice stairwell leading up there. And you have the back stairs where Flora is scrubbing totally unseen. It's very gray and gloomy. And then down at the lowest level, you have the staff quarters where they have their, they're down there cooking and polishing the silver. And so you get the whole feel of the bustling busyness of the hotel and kind of the bird's eye view. And it also looks like a dollhouse. I loved dollhouses when I was little.
Man, this is the spread where your kids are gonna be like, "Stop, stop, stop reading. I just have to sit here for a minute. I gotta look." Because it's like a feast. There's so much to look for. I've looked at it so many times and still I'll be like, "Oh, I did not notice that before."
Yeah.
Like that's
Yeah.
what I love so much about it. And also, just hats off to all the detail of that cannot be an easy thing to illustrate the interior of a hotel set in a different time period where you
No.
wanna make sure everything works. Is, like, accurate for the time, also
Yes.
works for the story,
Yes.
and then you have mice and aprons. Oh my gosh, I mean, seriously, I cannot get enough of this.
And so many characters. I was just counting and now I've kind of blanked out on it's like 38 characters or something in that
Okay.
scene. their little eyes are showing and whiskers when appropriate. It's tiny. And that particular scene, I was like, yes, I totally want to do this scene. And then as I worked on it, I was like, day by day, I was like getting one room done at a time. I'm like, this is taking so long, but it's worth it. It's worth it. It's worth
From
it.
the viewer's perspective, those of us who didn't have to make the art and just get to enjoy it, it was
Yes.
totally worth it, but I also giggled. I knew you were coming up with something for this blank spread,
Yes.
and when you sent in what you had, I was like, "Oh, we weren't just like, let's make a quick wordless spread that will
No.
keep the pacing of the story." I mean, it was I wondered how often when you started that, you thought, "What have I done?"
Well, I knew I really wanted it, and I was so
Yeah,
excited that you wanted
yeah,
me to do this. I've never done anything quite like this, like a total cutaway where you're seeing everything. Everything is shown, unless it's
yeah,
up under the ceiling and you're not seeing the ceiling. But otherwise,
yeah.
where there's so much perspective and you can get all the different like I played around with the color, like what kind of color scheme would be on the
Mhm.
different levels, and so that helps with the, yeah, setting the mood, and I really wanted you to get that bigger world.
Grandiosity, I guess, maybe.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you
Yeah.
remember how long it took to make that cutaway?
Oh, I think I probably spent like a week on it, would be
Yeah.
my guess. And that's like I
All day,
leave my
every day?
home, I drive to my studio. My studio happily is not in my home, so I can
Okay. Okay.
so it's like
Yes.
it's like a 9 to 5 job.
I understand. This is not in my home either for the same purpose. I have to be able
Exactly.
to, like, close the door and be like, "Okay, now we're
Yes.
doing something else now."
Yes. So I would say probably about a week. I'm not quite I don't remember. Sometimes if I'm really immersed in something, I have to actually put it aside so I can have fresh eyes and I'm not just like spinning my wheels.
Yeah.
Like, I'm getting tired of this. 'Cause
Yeah.
'cause I need to make sure that when I am painting that I'm in the right frame of mind. If I
Mhm.
go and I'm just like, "Okay, I'm just supposed to paint," and I'm not thinking and engaged in it, it starts looking like I'm not thinking and engaged.
Interesting. Okay, so, one of the things that makes you unique is that you are the author and the illustrator. So, writing the story and painting the story, I don't know about this process from a personal perspective because, of course, I'm not an illustrator. I wanna know what this is like for you. Is it all words until the words are completely done, and then you move into sketching? Or, like, what does your process look like?
So, the story does have to come first, but at the same time, I usually when I'm first, like, trying to come up with an idea for a story or it's coming to me, it often is visually. So I'll
Okay.
get an idea, like some kind
Mm,
of a picture in my head, and I'm like, "Oh, is there a story to go with this?" idea
okay.
that I have. So going back a little bit with Flora, for instance, that was very roundabout. I had this idea that I wanted to write a story about some musicians, and I wasn't sure if they would be classical musicians. It would be like a big orchestra or something that would have some that weren't very good. They wouldn't be very good, and they would need someone to help them out. And the reason I had an idea for that was because probably one of the very first drawings I ever did was a mouse that was conducting an orchestra, except it was just like a mouse standing at a music stand. I think my mom said I was probably about 3. The drawing does not exist anymore, but I was 3 and she was just like, what did you just draw?" Because it was a mouse that was like holding a baton at a music stand and had like the perspective was there. And she was just like,
Yeah.
"Okay." Um,
All the rest
but
of our three-year-olds are we, like, make smiley faces. We're like, "Look, they got 2 eyes and a nose on there.
right.
That's amazing."
I don't know how good this really was, but she said it was
We'll believe your
recognizable.
mother. We always believe the
Yes.
mother.
So, so I've kinda gone back and I was like, "Oh, that'd be really fun. That's a really just like that'd be a fun character." So I've been trying to, like, force him into a story, and he just wouldn't go there.
Okay.
And so then I was like, "Okay, well, maybe something about some musicians." And it just wasn't really gelling all that much. And then I was like 1920s. I wanna do something 1920s because of, like, the fashion and that was, like, jazz. I was like, "Jazz musicians do not need a conductor." And then I was playing around a little bit with, like, just doing a lot of drawings of animals in tuxedos and, like,
Okay.
very 1920s and some of the guests and, like, in little flapper outfits and stuff. And I was thinking that they would have a vocalist and she was going to be a bobcat or something. I think her name was either gonna be Nora or Flora, I don't quite remember. I think it was Nora. She wasn't
Okay.
quite working. And then I was looking at some of the other characters I'd drawn, and I'd drawn these 2, weasels or ferrets. I was just like, "She's so cute. Maybe could she be in the story somehow?" And somehow or other, then it all of a sudden, Flora became Flora. then it all of a sudden became that it was about Flora from her perspective and her
Mm.
point of view, and that she didn't start out as this amazing, I mean, she was an amazing singer, but she wasn't like part of a band, but
Mhm,
it was
mhm.
about how did she become that?
So I love this because it feels like it makes sense to me because since illustrations are such a storytelling conduit, I guess. It's
Yeah.
like such a that it makes sense that it's sort of in tandem, like you're writing and you're sketching at the same
Mhm.
time, and then your sketching is impacting your writing, and then you're right. Yes, and then
Yeah.
of course before we got to the place where you were making final sketches, the story was pretty much nailed down at that point. But
Right. So definitely I need to come up with some sort of an idea, and that's very tied into what I'm thinking visually and how like kind of what I want the visual impact of the story to be. And
okay,
then it goes to total writing where it's like I'm writing, I'm not getting to draw. I'm not very happy because I'm
yeah.
just writing. I go through many not mood swings, but it's sort of like I'm writing. It's hard. I can just say writing is very hard.
Okay, that was a question I had for you,
Very
was what I had a guess, like, which is gonna be, like, what would you say is the harder part? But you're answering it now, I think.
yes.
So something I oftentimes when I'm describing the different people who work on our books at Waxwing,
Yeah.
I describe everyone knows what an editor is because 'cause we've all had some experience at some level with an editor, whether that was even just like your teacher in elementary school, right? And then we get to the art director, and I always like to describe that as the editor for the illustrations. So, like, is that, but I don't know because I'm not an illustrator. Does that feel accurate to you since you had an editor for Flora? You had an editor for the text and an art director for the art, and then everyone's kind of working together, and you were the glue holding everything together because this is your work.
Yeah.
So, do you think that's an accurate description?
I think it is. I personally feel a lot stronger in the art side of things. I have a background in fine art. I feel like that's second nature to me, whereas the writing doesn't. So I ended up having, I think, a lot more help with the editing
Okay.
side of things.
Okay.
And but working with the art director, that was really good because I gave her a lot of visual things, and it kind of laid out what I was thinking. And then she came along and tweaked things a little bit, shifted things. There was one scene, and I'd been like happy with it. It was fine. It was where the jazzers are walking into the hotel, and
Okay.
Flora's down in the basement window, like peeking up
Oh,
through and
yes.
like seeing
Mhm.
them. And I had sketched it out. And when Kara, the art director, sent it back to me, she was like, I hope you're okay with the fact that I like flipped the illustration, like flip the sketch around. And I,
Yeah.
so that they would be, because I had them like over on the right, walking
Walking
to the
into the
left.
left. Yes.
And I don't know why I drew it that way. I just had.
Yeah.
And so she
Yeah.
flipped it around. So what you'll actually see in the book is that the characters are on the left page now and walking up the stairs to the right. And when I just saw that, and it was my sketch and it had been flipped around, it was just like, oh, that made like everything I'd drawn it the other way, but flipped around. Sometimes if you flip things look a little kind of wonky and weird.
Yes.
But
Mhm.
this all of a sudden was like, oh, that was what was missing. And it makes a whole lot of sense because we read from left to right. So if
Yeah.
you want some kind of forward motion, like them actually walking into the building, it makes a lot of sense to have them, over in the left so that they can be walking right
Yes.
up the stairs. So our eyes and brains tell us they're walking up the stairs versus,
Yes.
I don't know, falling backwards if they've been on the other side.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. I've not Kara does this all the time with our artists at Waxwing, where she'll just like, oh, we're just gonna turn. Dear Duck was another book where this
Yeah.
happened a lot, where she just flopped things to
Mhm.
make Duck walking toward the right.
Yes.
Um, and she was saying to me that it's yes, that characters that are leading the reader through the story, like you keep going, you're like moving,
Mhm.
and then if you have a part in the book where everything needs to kind of come to like a sudden screeching halt or a
Yep.
standstill. A lot of times turning that character so they're pointing to the left does it visually. It's amazing when you look at how this works.
Yeah.
Like I was just looking at Red and Lulu by Matt Tavares, which is one of my favorite Christmas picture books, noticing that in that book, Red, who's the red cardinal, is forward facing. The beak is pointing to the right the whole time until we get to the very moment before he finds Lulu. It's like one beat where it's like he wants you to pause. And in that one, he makes Red the cardinal sit on a branch and turn to the left.
Yeah.
Like I'm like trying to
Yeah.
in my brain. And it does absolutely make you like pause for a beat and then it's Oh, yeah, he finds Lulu. And I think as readers, we have no idea this is happening to us. But
But that's the fun thing that as creators that we get to do. Like the behind like we can actually get you to think a certain way.
yeah, you have a experience in fine art, which I interviewed Scott Gustafson, who's a fine artist who's
Yeah.
done some picture book work as well, fabulous paintings of fairy tales, especially. And he was telling me about how part of the job of the fine artist is to guide your eyes. And there's things that you do with light, and you use light really
Mhm.
beautifully in Flora, I think, as well, especially toward the end when Flora is really coming into her own.
Yes, that's also something that was wonderful with the art direction is the spotlight scene
Oh,
where
yeah.
the text is actually in the spotlight and is traveling
That's so
down.
cool.
It's a wonderful moment that I take no credit for. That just kind of like helps the whole thing to come together in this wonderful way.
Let's talk about those end papers.
Yeah.
I love end papers. I say this all the time, but I really feel like I mean, I'm also love theater, and I feel like the end papers are the opening curtain and the closing curtain,
Yeah.
where you're just being like, you're now in story world, you know?
Yes.
And your end papers, you did put up this reel on Instagram of a bit of your process. I will admit, I have worked with you for a while now and have seen a lot of these end papers over and over and had no idea that they your process was anything like this. Tell me about this process of making the end papers.
So I had the idea for end papers. I really wanted to make it look like wallpaper. So if you do look at the cutaway scene of the hotel, you can actually find the wallpaper is in one of the hallways. But I really wanted to have this Art Deco 1920s feel wallpaper and get some of that patterning in. So there is a lot of patterning throughout the book. I feel like every book I do, I'm like learning something new. I was kind of like, okay, so I'm going to do this. And I wanted to paint the whole thing. I didn't want to just make a little bit of pattern and then digitally like duplicate it. What
Mhm.
can easily be done. I'm like, no, I
Yeah.
want to paint the whole thing. And I want you to be able to see it's painted and have this handmade feel. So yes, I sketched the whole thing out. A lot of measuring because I didn't want to be like, okay, and the pattern's kind of going downhill or
Yeah,
whatever. I
yeah.
wanted the pattern to repeat nicely. So a lot of careful drawing. And then I went through with a masking fluid, um, which is sort of like almost like rubber cement.
Yeah,
And
that's the thing that was kinda sticking up on that
yes,
on
so
that
I
video
went
that you're
through and
sharing.
I had this attachment to it. It dried up after I used it, but that's almost like a needle. And you can actually like kind of draw with it. And it came out kind of globby, which you can see in the video.
Yeah.
Um, let that dry like for a whole day. And then it came back and then did a wash over it, just a little stripey, but like got that whole kind of effect in for the background blue color, that tricky color to reproduce.
Mhm.
Um, and it does sort of, it's a little variegated as it goes across, which was intentional. Like happy mistake, but yes, it was what I was wanting. I really want to set the stage so that you get the opulence of the hotel. And then you get that opening scene with the hotel from the outside and all the guests. And then you see how beautiful it is inside. And then you go down, down, down to Flora. So it was a lot of like careful detail. I knew it was worth it to do that for the end papers.
They're
And
stunning.
when I'm painting, I do have a lot of self-doubt. I'm like looking and critiquing it
Oh,
myself. And I'm like,
okay.
"Ugh, is this good enough? I don't know. I don't know. And I have to push through to the end because every
Okay.
painting I do goes through what I call a yuck stage where I
Okay.
can't stand it. I do not wanna look at it because it looks bad.
Okay.
That's because I'm judging it too soon. I've just started, and it has so much further to go. So, yeah, yuck stage for this was probably when I was, like, trying to get the original color down on the background, or when I took off the masking fluid, like, removed it, and I thought, "Ooh, what am I doing now?" I'm always having to remind myself, "Don't judge it too soon. Come back tomorrow with fresh eyes." And there were actually quite a few times in this book where I came back and I was like, "It was as bad as I thought it was." And I had to start over again. I was kind of
Yeah.
on a very tight time schedule for this book,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I think it was the outside of the hotel, that big scene right at the beginning where the story starts. I spent probably 2 days on that scene when I realized I had drawn the building incorrectly. Like, there were too many windows, there wasn't enough structure, and it was the wrong time period. It didn't look 1920s. I'm not sure what
Mm.
it looked like.
So there's a balance between, like,
There's
you're at the yuck stage and knowing, like, "I'm just gonna push through and see what happens,"
Yeah.
versus, "Nope."
Yeah.
Okay.
So there is a balance, but every single painting I go through goes through a yuck stage.
That's
where I'm
really
like,
helpful to hear.
so when I'm alone in my studio, it's like, am I doing Flora justice? Because Flora has been a little friend for a while. And I was like, okay, this is her chance to shine. I want to make sure she
Okay.
gets to shine.
Yeah, she does. Oh
And
my
she does.
goodness.
Here in the
She
end, she
totally
gets to
does.
shine. Yes.
What was the hardest part about making this particular book? Because how many books have you done? Do you know? Do you have a number?
So Flora is actually my 15th book, and she's my 9th book where I'm both the author and illustrator. So
Okay.
that's a lot.
That's
And
a
each
lot of
and
books.
and
Yeah.
each book presents its own challenge. So the big challenge in with Flora is the fact that it is set in a certain time period. Sort of certain time period because, hey, did anthropomorphic animals really live in the 1920s?
Yeah, you
So
have a
I
little
do
bit of creative freedom there.
right. I did want it to have this sense of age and time,
Okay.
and that it would have a distinct sense of place that's different from any of the other books I've done.
Okay.
So it is 1920s. So I did a lot of research into the clothing that was worn at that time period, the
Mhm.
architecture. So there are some things that, I have to try to figure out, okay, how to get that feel of the 1920s fashion.
Mhm.
But at the same time, I need to put little animals into that clothing or put the clothing onto little animals. Another thing that was tricky was I was working a lot with architecture, a lot of interior scenes. It was a little easier because I did make quite a few vignettes. So I didn't have to, like, not every single illustration was really grounded in tons of vanishing points. There were some where I was having to like measure everything out and like, okay, make sure everything, like that
Okay.
sidewalk scene that I was talking about earlier, where the band is going up
The
the stairs to
stairs
the
into
front door. There,
Mhm.
I had everything like taped out with these like long vanishing points so that I could make sure that the sidewalk and the windows and the brick or stonework on the facade, that everything was like working together.
Wow.
Hector Fox books take place out in the woods. Trees are extremely forgiving.
Oh, yes. Okay.
So, and there it
So
was just like I can make up my own stuff. And even
okay.
inside, he has a house, but even inside, it's like down
Yeah.
underground. So things can be a
Yeah.
little wonky and things can be tilted a little bit. I mean, he has tons of books, so I need to make sure if the books on the floor, they are actually on the surface of the floor and aren't like tipped sort of Picasso
Mhm.
style. But it's a little different than when you are
That natural setting gives a little more forgiving.
very forgiving. Yes.
Yeah. Mhm.
So out in the woods, I can paint those scenes like actually fairly quickly because
Okay.
it's just like trees, branches, blah blah blah. They're
Yeah.
the leaves. We kind of get
Okay.
the feel. And here it's like, oh, but there's a wall back there. What is on the wall?
Yes,
What is
right.
going to
And
be back there? What color is going to be back there? And where am I going to put the text? I can't just say like, okay, break in the trees. We now have sky. We'll put the text up in the sky because there's no sky.
yeah.
Um, so it's like, okay, so where am I going to put this in this scene without it looking strange? So
Yeah.
one of the scenes where I worked with it quite a bit is the scene where Flora is asking her boss if she can come to and listen to the concert. There was actually quite a bit of text, but I was planning a lot of characters. I wanted this full
Mm.
scene with all the hotel staff bustling around and getting
Mhm.
ready, and everyone is all in their like
Yeah, because it
fancy
ramps up
uniforms.
that FOMO feeling of poor
Yes,
Flora that she's gonna
yes.
miss. She really wants to be a part of this. Yeah.
Right, and they're all sort of the upstairs staff, and they're
Mhm.
the ones with the crisp
Mhm.
uniforms, and they look very
Mhm.
presentable, and she's there with her little work dress and
No
stains
fabric.
and apron and her bucket and her yeah, she's just like, "Can I just, like, hide behind a plant?" Anyway, so I wanted the plant, and I wanted the big hotel manager who's not very friendly. I'd chosen to be a fox because not all foxes are friendly. Even now that I made Hector, everyone thinks when they see a fox made by me, it is Hector, so no, that is not Hector. That's a very mean hotel manager.
Yes.
So anyway, so I wanted to get the full feel of the interior. So I wanted the wallpaper and I wanted that hustle and bustle. I'm like, where am I going to put the text? And so some of the text is up in picture frames. So like I like
Yeah.
dropped the
Mhm.
picture out and just had the frame. So that gave sort of an empty space. And also some of it's down on the floor and stuff. So
Brilliant.
so that
Yeah.
that proved quite a bit of a challenge. One thing that was challenging about that particular illustration is I hadn't figured out what it was going to look like before I started painting. Not a
Oh.
good idea when you work with watercolor. I work in watercolor and you can't really undo things. You can start over again. But so I had painted in the characters and then I'm like, so what am I doing with the background? Very bad way to do it, but it worked out. It did work out. But I kind of made it a little harder for myself working that direction. So
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, if working with watercolor or basically anything you do, plan it out before you start painting. Do lots and lots of sketches, try it out, and don't just like, "Okay, we're just gonna start."
Yeah. Oh
I think that
gosh.
is a little bit of my fine art background because there we were taught to, like, keep your options open and, like,
Oh,
be willing to
interesting.
kind of move with the painting, like, the paint don't
Okay.
decide at the beginning what the painting's gonna look like. Just kind of
Okay. Okay.
feel your way and learn as you're painting. Doesn't work quite as well with watercolor
Yeah.
and book illustration.
Yes. And with picture book illustrations where then your art director is like, "But I needed to put text on this page. Where is that going to
Right.
go?"
So happily, we all that was planned out, so I knew exactly I need to save this space, so I knew what I had to work with. But yes, because it was
Yeah.
planned out before I started painting, but just not that aspect of, "What am I doing with the background? What am I doing with the background?"
Yeah.
So,
What surprised you about making this book? Was anything, like, surprising? I mean, it's book 15, so you've a lot of experience both illustrating other people's writing and your own writing. What surprised you about this one?
I think what really surprised me was just how smooth the process was and working with a wonderful team at Waxwing.
Mm,
It was wonderful to work with super supportive people. It felt like a real team effort. So I'm looking at
mhm.
this, what I think is a gorgeous it's my best book so far. So
I I agree. I love all of your books so much. This one just I mean, it's sumptuous is the best word for it, truly.
but it's like every aspect of it when I saw, the edits, when the edits
Mm,
were finally done, I looked at it and thought, "Wow, this writing is so good."
yeah.
And I got there because it was a team effort, because I had someone who was helping me. And
Mm,
I looked at the final, like, layout of the book where I'd done all the art for it, but then seeing it actually, even just in digital files, seeing it laid out because someone else had added their touch, because Kara had added her
yes.
creative touch to it, and it just like brought it to another level. Even though I've been working on these for months, and I knew them inside out. It was just like seeing them through somebody else's eyes, and
Yes.
and then finally now seeing the color proofs when they came in from the printer,
Mhm.
and then finally holding the bound book. It's gorgeous.
It's so gratifying for me to hear. When I started Waxwing, I knew I have such a strong, appreciation for the collaborative nature of picture books. I think they're a unique form of book making because they require so many hands to do well, and I think you can tell when a book has either fewer hands or less genius sort of coming in at all sides. So when I created Waxwing, I knew I wanted this world-class team. Could we do it? I don't know. I'm just gonna start and we'll figure it out. And it has been such a joy to watch. Kara Llewellyn as art director, like you said, pulling in her own unique genius on like, ooh, being able to look at an illustration and be like, actually, all we need to do is flip the characters, or all we need to do is move this little piece up, or choosing just the right font for every story, which she nails every single time without fail. And then for your editor for this particular book was Caroline Starr Rose, who is also one of my favorite authors, and she is now working on several projects with us as editor at Waxwing and has this ability to see what you were trying to do and really honor what you were trying to do and also call you up to like what it like see where it could be better and call you up to it. It's I don't know how she does it, but she does it. It's
Yes.
amazing.
Yes.
So all these different pieces and the printer and our editorial director who's making sure everything's staying on schedule, which is not my forte whatsoever. Making sure no balls get dropped in between. And then, talking to our sales team and the distribution partners that need to get it out to bookstores so that it's in the hands of readers on time. It is an absolutely awe-inspiring kind of collaborative effort because then we can look at this book and go like, this needed every person who touched it to touch it, to
Totally.
bring it to life.
Totally. And I feel like with Flora, I had a team supporting me that believed in Flora just as much as I did.
We're so
Yep.
excited. We're going to put links in the show notes to all of Astrid's books, including Flora and the Jazzers, which comes out very, very soon, next week when this episode is airing. So you want to go get your hands on it. Astrid, at the beginning, you mentioned that your dad read aloud to you, mostly
Yep.
classics. I'm so curious if you could illustrate any children's classic, which one would you be like, oh, goodness, I would love to illustrate that one?
There are many. I would say Narnia.
Okay. What's your advice for young people who want to do what you're doing? What would you tell them if a young person just came up to you and said, "I wanna do what you're doing when I'm older. What should I be doing now?"
Yeah. So right now, I would say get a sketchbook And whenever you have a moment where you're sitting and you're not sure what you're supposed to be doing or what you could be doing, or just sitting waiting, sketch.
Okay.
Observe what's around you. And this goes for whether you're interested in art or you're interested in writing. You'll become better at it the more you observe the world around you. And I found one of the best ways to observe things is by trying to draw it. So whether you are, terribly good at drawing or not, it's good to, because the longer you look at something and study it, the better you'd be able to draw it. But the same thing, if you are looking at and studying it to be able to draw it, you will notice things. So it's kind of like, it kind of works both ways, that it can help you be a better observer by sketching and drawing, and it can help you sketch and draw by, spending time doing it.
Yeah.
Spend time observing the world around you and the beauty of what has been created and what we are, where we're living.
Are you saying like sketch the things you see, not just what you're because I think sometimes we
Yeah.
think, oh, I'm supposed to be original. I can't just sketch
No,
what's
you
around
know
me.
what? I would say it took me a while to be original. And
Okay.
if you look at my books, if you look at the books that I have, like my earlier books, so the books before Hector Fox, it was very grounded in reality, and not a lot of my own personality was coming through it and my own style. But all those years of, and also with my fine art background, but all those years of painting and observing and painting things very realistically
Mm-hmm.
based on what I was seeing, that was able to inform me so that when I then started painting things very imaginatively, like Hector Fox or Flora, because the reality that I had very much immersed myself in was able to inform my imagination. So at this point, if you're young, don't worry about being original. Worry about like gaining the skills of being able to draw, being able to make good marks, being able to render or recreate what you're seeing in front of you. But doing all those things will help you when you then start diving more into trying to create those wonderful characters you have in your head. Because if you can start drawing the things that you're actually seeing in front of you, it will help you be able to draw what's in your imagination better. Keep practicing. Don't judge it too soon. I'm saying that to myself too. Don't judge your art too soon. Stick with it. And maybe the first attempt you make at something, that's not going to be your final. And usually it's a good idea to like keep going, just like when you're writing.
Astrid, I am just so excited to see pictures of children reading this book, to know that Flora is in the laps of families reading aloud and on bookshelves all over, and I cannot wait.
Me too.
Cannot wait. Congratulations. It is an absolutely stunning book, truly.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Flora and the Jazzers hits shelves October 7th, 2025, which is next week. Go order your copy now. You will be so glad you did. This is one of those picture books that you're going to keep even after you get rid of all your other picture books and you're just keeping a few for the grandbabies. This is going to be one of them. I can nearly guarantee it. It just has that classic feel that we love so much around here. You can find it anywhere books are sold, or you can head to waxwingbooks.com to learn more. Show notes for this episode are at readaloudrevival.com/272. That's where you're going to find Flora and the Jazzers and all of Astrid's other books, as well as a link to her beautiful website. And if you notice behind me some of the art, this art right up here is even a print from Astrid's shop. So we'll link to that as well, just in case you want some really beautiful, inspiring art for your own walls. Highly recommend all of the work by Astrid. She's just a complete delight, as you now know for yourself. I'll be back in 2 weeks with another episode. But in the meantime, pretty sure you know what to do. Go make meaningful and lasting connections with your kids through books.